If I were to tell you that Queen Nai is one of the strangest characters in the entire game, it wouldn't really come as a surprise. But if I were to explain why, then it might not be what you think. Now, I did that really funny thing where I forgot to press start record, but luckily this time it was only one game in, hence watching the replay on the last one. But Queen Nai, we all know she has 3 speed, and that definitely makes her strange. It makes her unique. She's the only character in the game, and probably the only character ever that the game will have that has that 3 speed stat line. And while that might be the central cause of her strangeness, it's certainly not the full story. Queen Nai has been a very strange meta character, in the sense that she's been put at the lowest on tier list for years now, for a long time, despite having some incredible strengths that I'm of course going to go into today. But to understand a character being bad or low on a tier list, we first have to take a step back. Despite a character being at the bottom of a Brawlhalla tier list, they are not bad. And the reason for that is honestly pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's because of Brawlhalla's design in general. If you've been around for a while, you know this is something I've repeated many times. Brawlhalla's balance is unbelievably good. Every single character in the game is viable, and I know hearing that sentence, Brawlhalla's balance is unbelievably good, may come as a surprise and might be a bit of a shocker, but it is very true. Even beyond individual balancing choices, which in my opinion are actually quite good and have been for a little while now, if we ignore all of that and just look at the fundamental design of the game, every single character will always be viable just because there's enough shared mechanics and shared characteristics between each one. Everyone has the same gravity, everyone has the same jump height, the same dash speed, the same dash distance, and there's so many weapon overlaps that you can't have a character be bad. It's simply not feasible. The downside to that kind of game design is, of course, perhaps losing a little bit of individuality between the characters, some uniqueness, because yes, Brawlhalla does overlap in many ways. I might get pretty lucky here. And that similarity means they are closer in certain elements that other games' characters might not be. And that's not a good or a bad thing, it's just a natural consequence of how the game is designed. For me, that's one of my favorite parts of Brawlhalla. I can pick up and play pretty much any character, and there's enough shared overlap to be like, hey, this is something that I feel comfortable with, this is something that I feel familiar with, but there's still enough uniqueness and shared characteristics to where everyone has their own niche. If we want to peel back the curtain a little bit, I can make one of these unique individual character videos on every single legend in the game simply because there are enough techniques, niche strategies that every single one can use, and I could talk about for an extended commentary. But I'm getting a bit distracted here. This is a video about Queen Nai, so why am I bringing all of this up? Well, let me tell you. When you see a tier list and you see a character like Queen Nai at the bottom, most of the time, depending on who's making it, of course maybe the verbiage will change a little bit, but the very bottom of the tier list will be something like B tier, B minus tier, maybe. And the reasoning is what I said before. Everyone is still going to be incredibly viable, incredibly good. You can win any matchup with any character, with any weapon. So we're talking about tiers on a Brawlhalla scale, not a universal scale where there's things like F tier or Z tier even that are completely, non-tournament viable. So yes, Queen Nai has historically been weaker, on the weaker end of things, but that certainly doesn't make her weak, and she really hasn't ever been. The thing that's often strange is her strength is not necessarily dictated by her own changes. Something like Scythe being really strong makes Queen Nai weaker, and why is that? Well, she's not really good off stage. Someone low speed can get gimped fairly easily. So a weapon like Scythe that drives people off stage, something like Gauntlets, something like Battle Boots, when they're really strong, Queen Nai is suddenly a lot weaker. That isn't necessarily a universal truth. Of course, things are more complicated than that, but that tends to be the case. When things are good off stage, things that can carry you, low speed characters are gonna struggle a lot more than higher speed characters. It's just gonna take more resources to get back. That was also all more significantly important before dash was in the game. Now with dash, everyone dashes at the same speed like I mentioned before, everyone has the same dash jump, and with the new backdash changes, these are super new. I mean, you can just maneuver around like crazy, as well as the dash landing, the dash canceling. It's nuts! And you see Queen Nai really doesn't struggle on the ground like that because she can do all of those neat things. So you see why I'm saying she's a little bit of a weird one. Yes, her speed is her worst attribute, but there are a lot of variables flying around here. I feel like my point kind of got muddied at the end there, but basically what I was trying to say is that it's not necessarily as simple as low speed equals bad. Yes, it's true that lower speed is not desirable. I would even go so far as to say not very good. Maybe that's just a me thing. I kind of did that to my teammate. Whoops. I might have just made it even more unclear. Basically what I'm saying is there's more to low speed equals bad then simply low speed equals bad. Things like dash, like I mentioned before, or in certain scenarios, a teammate being there to save you when you're super deep off stage, or on a more universal balance change note, something like dexterity being altered, so Katars no longer have to have a certain dex value to get sidelight into endlight and sidelight into downlight. Now Queen Nai can do that without any worries. I guess that's more on the point of low speed having some things to buffer its weakness than necessarily Queen Nai being strong herself. So let me move on to the points where Queen Nai is strong herself. We'll see if I can show it off, one of them right away right here, because this is pretty insane. We're talking about a downlight into Sig true combo. That's right, this wonky weirdo character we've been talking about this entire time is one of the few legends in the entire game that has a true combo with a signature. Now, if you are in really certain situations, maybe you'll be able to dodge up depending on how the downlight hits you, but for the most part, this is going to be a guaranteed combo that you can see has a lot of force. Ensig itself does a lot of damage, and it's going to kill off the top earlier than recovery would. This is brutal on its own. Already, this is a huge attribute that Queen Nai possesses that, like I said, most characters in the game simply don't have. But it's not just that downlight into Ensig is incredibly strong, but Ensig on its own is a 10 out of 10 signature. I say as I miss it right in their face, but you can see why it's so good. Not only is it killing early, not only does it deal a lot of damage like I mentioned, but it hits high into the sky, it hits stacked on the ground, it's super fast for Queen Nai's archetype, and it has a ton of active frames. The edge of these snakes are still going to hit you well into the animation, well after you think it's over and it's done. And for how good a move like Bow Endlight is, imagine that, but as an Ensig. So you're starting to see why it's a little complicated to call her a bad character. I didn't even mention why this move, hitting on the ground, is so good. Spear innately does not have any KO moves on the ground. Endlight, sidelight, and downlight will not KO. This though, this will. It's also why Arcadia Spear Ensig is so good. I honestly was thinking about making an entire video on that as well. So we'll see. But yeah, if you're looking at the strength of Spear signatures, it hitting on the ground is gonna give it like a plus 10 boost in utility, in power. It is a fantastic attribute to have. And of course this move has it, because it being super fast and having a true combo wasn't enough. Now I could go on all day about this signature. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of why it's so good. Look how long those snake heads stay out. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention any of her other strengths as well. That Ensig, by the way, does 27 to 28 base damage. You know how much a downline Sayer does? Less than that. It does more than a downline Sayer. I think downline Sayer is what, 26, 27? So yeah, that's it should be 26, I believe. That's crazy. That's crazy. This one move does more damage than a full true combo. So that's interesting, but of course it's not that just one move. If she has 7 strength, all of her moves, especially on the Katars, are gonna deal a billion. Now, I don't want to mislead you with how I was phrasing that there. Strength doesn't have a direct correlation to how much damage a signature will do. If it's like a utility sig, for example, it'll probably do less just because, you know, it has utility as well. They gotta minimize the damage because it has other attributes that make it good. But Queen Nai's whole archetype is being high strength. She's a slow tank, a brute. Blow for blow, she's gonna out damage you. Now, 2 players at once, I don't know about that. Maybe not so much. But individually, that is, of course, how she's designed. And it feels like it. The slow speed, yes, it's bad. But also she does so much damage that I honestly don't even feel it sometimes, because the stocks just evaporate that quick. Now speaking of getting evaporated very quick, gotta be careful here, because otherwise I'm gonna lose my stock. Gonna throw that out off the ledge, which is not the best decision, and I feel like something is coming here. That was scary. This whole time I had another stock. I didn't even realize that. All right, well now I feel a lot less stressed. I feel way less stressed. I don't know. Either way, I should probably be careful not to get carried off stage by Scythe. I was just talking about how Scythe can do that. But yeah, that recovery killing doesn't kill on every character. Now, with all that I just said, all of the strengths of Queen Nai, all the things that make her not really the worst in the game, but maybe potentially the worst in the game, but the worst in the game is honestly not even that bad, will I be playing her? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm a bit of an impatient Emmanuel, and I need high speed. That is just my prerogative. That is what I always desire. That is what I always want. And so a character with the lowest base speed in the game, no thank you. No thank you. I'm okay. But she is good. Don't get me wrong, she is still good. Just different strokes for different folks. Different strings for different strombles. Different true combos for different bombles. You know, in that situation, it is kind of funny because all that I was saying about Ensing and how good it is, if I Sared, they probably would have died because they're like closer to the horizontal kill box. So, you know what? maybe don't autopilot. Maybe do things according to the scenario rather than just an automatic thing. But I guess that's more of a lesson in general. I did the wrong place. Sometimes counting your jumps is a good idea. Sometimes saving them with a boomerang is a bad idea. Sometimes killing them, potentially, with a boomerang on the way up, though, can pay off. Anyway, this is a bit of a goofer game because we're going way off stage, and all that I was saying about Queen Nai, I'm gonna die here. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's no team damage. Anyway, this wasn't a super structured video. It's not one of my more formal character commentaries. I just felt like talking about this a little bit today. Did you see the distance that the Sticky Bomb sent them at? Okay, I have never seen that before. I've actually never seen that before. To be fair, Sticky Bombs are new. Anyway, her other SIGs are like pretty good too. I mean, they're not incredible. The down SIG is like once you find your way around it, isn't as good, but it can be super cheesy, which is always a strength that you want to have. That hit the wrong guy. I'll take that off your hands. They took that off your hands. This is just a game of Sticky Bomb. I love this gadget. I hope you all had a good time. I didn't even say the whole like subscribe thing I was supposed to say, so that was oh well. We live and learn. But I wanted to play some friendly twos in the meantime, so hope you enjoyed. This was a mess. Good night.